How you doing, everyone? It is Monday night, and I'm going to put this together over a couple of different videos because it takes some time with the different steps that you do with sourdough. We're going to go through and talk about Miriam's sourdough starter, as well as the finished product and the steps that it takes all along the way. So we're going to actually take a couple of minutes here, and we're going to look at how to feed it and how to store it if you don't want it to continue to be active, if you want to just kind of take a break from it and not kill it. We're going to talk about that as well. So here we go.
Getting ready to feed my sourdough starter. I made some dough tonight. If you want to make bread every day or every other day, use your starter when it's ready. I'll show you what that looks like tomorrow after this is fed. Right now it's a little weak. It needs to eat again so that I can make bread with it tomorrow. So I put it on my digital scale. I add equal parts by weight of flour and water. So it's 143 grams, just throw it out. And it does not have to be exact. It just needs to be kind of close. Oh, and then you make a mess. 138. Yeah, that's close enough. See, I can take a little out. There we go. That's the flour. And then again, you can have a little more water if you want it to be a slightly runnier starter. Use filtered water. This is filtered from our Berkey. It's better not to use city water because it tends to have chlorine in it, and that will inhibit your starter. The other thing, I use a wooden chopstick. For whatever reason, they say not to use metal when you're messing with your starter. So just use a chopstick, stir it up. Ooh. You can see how it looks right now. Just kind of lumpy and sludgy, just, you know, like flour and water, because that's mostly what it is. A little bit of bacteria. And then you can kind of take note of where it is on your jar. And you'll see tomorrow how much it should probably double, and it will look very frothy and bubbly. I'll show you what it looks like tomorrow. After you have it mixed, close up your top or screw top if you have it. You don't actually want to leave it just open because since it's fermenting, it could be open to whatever bacteria you have around in your kitchen. And we all have bacteria and yeast floating around in the air. What I'm doing now is I'm putting a rubber band on so that I don't usually do this, but I want to give you a visual of the level that the starter is at right now, and then when it's active and bubbly tomorrow, where it'll be. Okay. All right, our starter has risen overnight, and now we're going to check it. If you listen really carefully, you hear that fart? That means it's active and bubbly. Get a good look at that. So you can see from the rubber band, this is where it was when we put it in last night. It is more than doubled in size. It's a very happy, active starter. So now we're gonna see if it's ready to make bread with. This is a great, this was a game changer when I read this hack. So take just a tiny bit of your starter and a glass of water. We're just gonna let it flop in there. Boop. If it pops back up and sits on top of the water, it is active and ready to make a loaf of bread. If it sinks, you have either let it sit for too long or it hasn't risen long enough. Please don't include that. Right now I'm going to show you how to assemble a sourdough loaf. Take our starter, have a bowl on the scale. I was adding, now this is going to make 2 loaves, so I double my recipe. The recipe calls for 150 grams of starter. I realized that if I add more than that, I get a better, quicker rise. So what I'm going to do is, so it calls for 150 grams. To double that would be 300, but I've been making it with 400 grams of starter. So we can just pour this in here. And watch the scale till it gets to 400 grams. You can see how it looks. This is how it should look. It's very It's all bubbly and aerated. Here, I'll move over. Come on, buddy. Doesn't want to come out. Hang on. Oh, I might not have 400 grams, and that's okay too. I know it seems silly to weigh things and also wing it, but that's kind of how sourdough is. People might ask, okay, well, how long does it need to sit on the counter and rise? I would say, oh, let it rise overnight. But here's the thing. There are so many, oh, look at that, just over 400 grams. There are so many variables no, it's just under, to sourdough. Everything matters. It depends on how old your sourdough is. It depends on how often you've fed it. It depends on how warm it is. It depends on what time of year it is. It depends on
your location.
Your location, the humidity, how much yeast you have in your house. All of these variables make a difference. So what you have to learn to do is just sort of eyeball it. So the thing about making bread, it's much easier to learn to make regular bread, yeasted bread, before you learn to make sourdough, because you get a feel for how bread is supposed to be. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. Normally I use olive oil. I'm out, so I'm gonna use avocado oil. I've used this before, it's not a big deal. 50 grams. And again, you just watch your scale and pour it in. I used to think this was fussy, and now I really like to just weigh things in recipes. There's no extra measuring or anything. You just dump everything into the bowl. 20 grams of salt. And this scale like this, how much did you pay for that, hon?
$15, 20
That's
max.
cheap. And we've had it for a lot of years. And now I stir this because I found that if I just dump the flour in, sometimes the flour and the oil can kind of...
You mean the salt?
No. When I dump the flour in, the oil is sitting here on top, and it will kind of clump into floury, oily mess when you go to the full loaf.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm like, you didn't put flour in yet.
I did not put flour in yet, and that's why I'm stirring it first. All right, that's good enough. Now we put in the water. It needs to be warm. Well, it doesn't have to be warm. It will rise faster if it's warm, but you don't want hot because you're going to kill that yeast if you're not careful. So I just take water that was hot on the kettle, dump in about 100 grams, and then put cold water. Always filtered, guys. What do I want? 500 grams. And check and make sure it's not too cold or too hot. We use a little more hot water. If you're learning anything about my kitchen, you're learning that I'm a kind of loosey-goosey about this stuff. All right, so now I've got the water measured. Now I'm gonna dump in the flour. I'm gonna tear out the scale because I'm just gonna leave that in there. I need 1,000 grams.
Make sure you measure with the spoon.
Yes. And just dump this in. You see how easy this is. None of this measuring, sifting, weighing, it's just dump it in. Yep. And if you go a little over, hey, take some out. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. And now I'm just gonna dump the water on and stir it into a rough dough. You can stir it till it mostly sticks together and then just knead it with your hands. Some people will say to mix it to this point and then come back in 30 minutes and mix it a little bit more. I mean, I'm on a schedule. I'm not sitting around here married to my sourdough all day. I do think it's a little stiffer than usual. I think my, I was gonna add a little water. That's okay. My starter was a little thicker than it is sometimes. But again, it doesn't really matter. It just doesn't matter. Some people's sourdough is very loose, like you can't actually knead it. I don't know why they do it like that. This just makes more sense to me because I make bread. Yeah. That's just about good enough. And I know it looks shaggy and not smooth or whatever, but it will all come together and ferment nicely. There you go. You see how it's still sticky? That's what you want. I'll put it back in here for now. All right, now we're gonna go for the bulk rise. This can take anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. I mean, as few as 6, honestly. What I have here is a plastic bin. It's marked with 2 quarts, 4 quarts, and 6 quarts.
And liters.
What?
And liters.
Yes, and liters, which I ignore because I'm American. I take this oil, and this is just to keep it from, just give it a little spritz to keep it from sticking to the tub. I'm just going to take my dough out of my bowl, turn it out on the counter, like so. Just kind of smooth it a little bit. Make sure there's no ragged bits. Pretty easy. Plop it in my bin. I'm just going to push it down so I can see the level that I put it in at. See, it's just below 2 quarts right here. Mm-hmm. We want it to at least double in size. So I will, it needs to be covered so that, you know, the dough doesn't dry out. And yes, I'm reusing this piece of saran wrap.
That's fine.
It was for bread previously. And I take a rubber band just for, oh good.
You need help?
Just for extra. There we go. Safety. And then I just slide it out of the way on my counter and walk away. All right, so now you can see it has risen from just under 2 quarts for 2 loaves, over half. Over doubled to all the way up here. She's happy and ready to go. So I'm gonna take this, take this saran wrap off. I'm just gonna gently pour this out of our tub. Oh, you should smell this. Yeah, get up close and get a sniff. All right. How she looks. You can believe that flour and water fermenting can do this. That's pretty cool. I just take my my bench scraper and cut it because it's pretty, sticky. All right, so now this was the bulk rise. Now we're gonna do the final rise, the final proofing before we bake. And this can take anywhere from an hour to several hours. Again, it depends on how warm your kitchen is. That's the main thing, and how active your starter is. Look at that tidy little ball. That's all we gotta do.
It's about the size of a grapefruit.
It's about the size of a pomelo.
Nobody knows what a pomelo is. How about a
baby?
A melon.
A little baby head. Sorry, that's dark. Okay, so you can see I let them rise a variety of things. This is just a cast iron pot. It will be baked in this one. And this is a lid for my Instant Pot. You know, whatever. It works. It fits perfectly. And then the other one I'll let rise in this banneton. I put a little flour in so that it's easy to take out once it's risen. I would use baskets for both of my loaves, but I only have one basket. And it doesn't matter at all. This just gives us a nice pattern when it has risen. We can bake both of these at the same time, which is nice. Now, I do have a convection oven, which means it has a fan, so circulating air in there. I don't have any problem baking both of them at the same time. You might find that it takes, if you don't have a convection oven, it may take longer to bake than it would take me. Now, I'm going to put this pretty side this way down so that when it rises, it won't have any weird lines in it. And put this on, and now we just, it's very little hands-on time to do sourdough once you get your system done. We're just gonna leave that there and walk away. All right, we are ready. I'm gonna take this out of this is just a little tricky. Not my favorite part. Get that out of there and into there. Didn't do too bad this time. Trying not to deflate it. And I have this little, I actually don't know what these are called. like a razor we use for cutting. I'm not gonna get fancy. I'm just gonna cut a nice deep slash here so that it doesn't explode in the oven. See that? There we go. And then we're gonna put the lid on here. And then this one, same thing. You can see that it's puffy. You can see where I poked it with my finger, puffy and risen. Just gonna get this little cut across.
You need sharper razor blades.
You know, I see people do these online and they just slice right through, and mine don't do that. I don't know why. I don't think it's the razor, because I've changed and gotten new razors. I don't know. Okay, so this is preheated to 450, but actually now that it's there, I'll shut it off and turn it down to 400 as I put them in. A lot of people do fancy stuff and put water in there and everything. I don't. I'll put these in and bake them for 30 minutes with the lids on. All right. "30 minutes is up. Cut and remove the lids. First one. Oops, sorry. And all we do, let's see how they look. They are not done. Come back in there. Let them bake another 20 minutes till they get nice and crisp and dark. Actually, I think this can go a little longer.
Is that because it's in a different pot?
Yes.
Talk about that a bit.
This is a nice tight pot. The bigger pot sometimes takes a little bit longer. Don't leave it in the pan to cool because
It'll keep cooking on it.
it will not be crisp. It'll sogify the crust. I can't think of any other way to put it. If it cools in there, it won't be crispy.
You can actually see the next batch that we put in there this morning. It's already risen halfway to being double, which is kind of cool.
This is the, there we go. Alrighty. See how nice that looks on the bottom.
I heard it.
Ready, listen. Oh, I can't, it's too hot.
Perfect. The other one will be done in about 2 minutes. Not even. About a minute. What do you think?
Yep. Should be. Let's see if she's done. It's good. At least another minute. Sorry. There she is. That looks good. Ooh, my spatula is pretty good.
Time to get a new one.
I like the way the one bakes in the smaller pan. It's just more compact, but it doesn't matter. Tastes the same.
There you go, kids. Amazing. So, obviously, this process takes a little bit of time. Hours happen between rises, and you know, I mean, it's just one of those things. You got to be able to schedule the time in to do it. Just got to make it happen. But it's good, and it's well worth it. And yeah, I mean, you can see that. Well, here, let me flip it around. You can see, like, we made this, and that will be ready to bake tomorrow. And the starter is, where is the starter?
I've got it. It's in the fridge.
Oh, because it's cooling down. It's
Well,
chilling out.
no, it's just I baked 4 loaves today. I'm not going to need to bake for a couple days. I can pull it out of the fridge when I'm ready to start again.
All right, well, there you go.
You want to see what else is going on in the kitchen real quick?
I don't think so.
At the moment?
Maybe another video. Stay prepared.